There's one contestant this season who has confused viewers more than anyone else. Not because of a love triangle, not because of a dramatic altar moment, but because no one could quite figure out who he really was. Alex Henderson. Or is it Alec Ferrell? Former Division I soccer goalkeeper, finance professional, world traveler, gym manager, casino dealer, day trader, youth soccer coach. At one point this season, it felt like every episode introduced a new version of him. And now, Alex is finally setting the record straight. Because the confusion around his name and his career didn't just puzzle fans, it created doubt inside the pods. It raised questions with Ashley. It raised even bigger questions with her father. And in an experiment built on transparency, confusion can be fatal. So let's break this down. When Alex entered the pods on Love is Blind Season 10, he introduced himself as a former Division I soccer goalkeeper. That part is true. He played at Wake Forest University. He was drafted in 2017 by Minnesota United. He had real momentum. Then came the knee injuries, multiple surgeries, a career cut short before it truly began. That's a compelling backstory. But here's where things started getting murky. Fans quickly noticed something odd. The name Alex Henderson didn't appear in older soccer records. Instead, there was an Alec Ferrell. Same face, same timeline, different name, which immediately sparked speculation. Was this a reinvention? A rebrand? Why change both your first and last name? Alex has now addressed it directly. He was born Alex Henderson. His biological father was not present in his life. Later, his stepfather legally adopted him. He took the name Ferrell. For years, that was his identity. That was the name attached to his soccer career. But as an adult, he decided to revert back to Henderson, not to honor his biological father, he says, but to reclaim the name he was born with, to build his identity on his original foundation. That's significant, because name changes often signal reinvention, and reinvention makes people curious. Now let's talk about the job confusion. In the pods, Ashley repeatedly asked what Alex actually does, and his answers weren't exactly linear. After soccer ended, he worked at Merrill Lynch in Denver, then moved to Chicago, worked at a Canadian bank for 3 years, then COVID hit. He received a severance package, and instead of stabilizing, he pivoted. He traveled, during a global shutdown, to Australia, where he worked as a fisherman, then ran a gym, then worked as a casino dealer, then returned to America, then worked in digital marketing sales, then in fintech. Now he's a day trader and youth soccer coach in Cleveland. That's not a typical career trajectory, and that unpredictability became a point of tension. Because when you're proposing marriage, clarity matters. Ashley's dad asked pointed questions about stability, about direction, about financial security, and Alex struggled to compress years of pivots into something concise. He later admitted that explaining his path without oversharing personal trauma felt nearly impossible. That's a revealing statement, because it suggests there's more beneath the surface, more context, more emotional weight. But here's the bigger conversation. Is Alex misunderstood, or is he inconsistent? Some viewers see resilience, an athlete whose body failed him, who reinvented himself repeatedly, who refused to be boxed into one path. Others see instability, a pattern of starting over, a lack of long-term grounding. And in a show about marriage, stability often wins over spontaneity. Now layer this onto his storyline with Ashley. Ashley wanted clarity. She wanted to know who she was building a future with. And when answers feel fluid, it creates hesitation. That hesitation isn't about soccer. It's about predictability. Marriage isn't just about chemistry. It's about structure. So when Alex says his life just continues to roll from one state to another, that may sound adventurous, but to someone seeking permanence, it can feel unsettling. Let's also address timing. Alex reverted back to Henderson around 2020, right before he started traveling extensively, right before his new chapter began. Symbolically, that's powerful. It signals ownership, agency. But for viewers watching the season without that context, it looked like a discrepancy. And reality TV thrives on perceived inconsistencies. Now here's the irony. Love is Blind is built on emotional connection over resume details. But once the pods open, the real world demands specifics: income, career trajectory, location, family dynamics. And Alex's story is layered. It doesn't fit into a neat sentence, which makes it compelling television, but complicated partnership material. Now let's zoom out. Season 10 has already been filled with identity questions, hidden engagements, career controversies, name revelations, and Alex sits right at the center of that. He's not the loudest contestant, he's not the most dramatic, but he may be the most polarizing. Because audiences project onto complexity. Some see ambition, others see red flags, and that's what makes this storyline so clickable. Now here's something people aren't discussing enough. Athletes often experience identity crises when their careers end abruptly, when your identity is built on performance, and that performance stops. You're forced to rebuild from scratch. Alex's pivots might not be randomness, they might be recalibration, but recalibration doesn't always translate well in accelerated romance. Now let's talk optics. A former pro athlete turned fisherman, turned gym manager, turned casino dealer, turned fintech employee, turned day trader. That's cinematic. But it's also unpredictable. And unpredictability can be romantic or risky depending on perspective. Which side you land on likely shapes how you view his relationship outcome. Because clarity equals security. And security equals trust. So the real question isn't just about his name, it's about narrative coherence. Does Alex's life story feel intentional or reactive? Does reclaiming Henderson feel empowering or strategic? And that ambiguity keeps viewers engaged. What's interesting is Alex himself admitted the confusion. He didn't dismiss it, he acknowledged it. He said it's confusing even to him. That self-awareness matters. But in a format where decisions are compressed, self-awareness sometimes arrives too late. Now, there's also the production factor. Love is Blind compresses months of conversation into hours of television, which means nuance gets trimmed. Career details become sound bites. Identity shifts become headline moments. And what's left can feel fragmented. So part of this confusion may be editing, part may be timing, part may be life genuinely unfolding in unpredictable ways. But what's undeniable is this. Alex Henderson, formerly Alec Ferrell, has become one of the most talked about contestants of Season 10, not because of scandal, but because of story, and story drives engagement. As the reunion approaches, expect this topic to resurface. Expect pointed questions, expect clarification. Because when identity becomes part of the narrative, audiences demand resolution. And here's the final layer. Love is Blind asks whether emotional connection can outweigh external factors. But this storyline reminds us something important. External factors still matter. Names matter. Careers matter. Stability matters. Because love may begin blind, but marriage requires sight. If you want deeper breakdowns of Season 10's most complicated storylines, updates on what's happened since filming ended, and analysis of which narratives are being reshaped before the reunion, subscribe now. Because sometimes the most dramatic twists on Love is Blind aren't about who you choose, they're about who you are.